Story 1. There is an argument that some basic parenting actions expected of mothers are praised as if they are something special when a father does them. Story 2. They dislike when men receive praise for tasks such as changing a diaper, playing with their children, preparing dinner, or shopping. No mother would ever be called a great mom for performing tasks that are simply expected of a parent. Story 3. I have never seen this, and I am a dad myself. All the moms I know praise their husbands for being good dads and are happy when others do the same. Story 4. This situation frustrates me. I often took care of my nephews even when they were infants. Women would stop me in the store and make comments like, "Oh, giving mommy a break?" Or, "Getting a little daddy time." I'm their uncle and I take care of them 4 days a week. I am perfectly capable of taking care of a child on my own. Even when I was in graduate school, it happened. A visiting postdoctoral researcher had brought her daughter with her. One day, she had a conflict and asked me to take care of her toddler. The women in the office were offended. Not only had I been an uncle for 20 years, but I also spoke the child's native language. However, what mattered to them was that I was a man, so they believed I shouldn't be able to take care of a child. Story 5. Many women feel frustrated when fathers are praised for being good parents, as they often do not receive similar recognition for their own hard work and dedication in parenting. Story 6. Many women dislike when fathers are praised for doing the bare minimum. For example, knowing basic information about their child is the minimum expectation of a parent, yet many men receive praise for it. Story 7. I don't hate it, but I struggle with it sometimes. The things I see my husband get praised for are done at a standard I would be criticized for. Part of me wants to compliment fathers more, so they do more and encourage their friends to be better, more present fathers, moving everything in a positive direction. But then I get caught up in wondering why we praise the bare minimum. Standard disclaimer: not all fathers. Story 8. They do not dislike fathers being praised for being good fathers. They dislike not being praised for doing the same thing. When a father takes the children to the park, he is considered a good dad, but when a mother does the same, there is little acknowledgement. This reflects a double standard. Basic parenting should be expected from both parents. Story 9. Two possibilities exist. Common. Men often receive praise for being good fathers while doing significantly less than what is expected of women to earn similar recognition. Rare. Some women may experience jealousy inspired by traditional gender roles if they perceive their partner as a better parent, especially if their partner receives more compliments for their parenting. This can be comparable to how a man might feel resentment if his partner earns a higher income than he does. Story 10. Older man here. This happened when my children were very young, and it occurred more than once. I would be out at the store or running an errand with my kids, and I would receive a comment from some mother or grandmother about daddy babysitting. It bothered me because I am not babysitting. I am parenting. When we had our first child, my wife had almost no experience with children. I had to teach her how to properly bathe, change diapers, and care for our baby. She picked it up quickly and became a great mom. I learned because, as the youngest son in my family, my older siblings were having babies since I was 6 years old. I learned how to do all this from watching, helping, and eventually babysitting. So I was not a clueless dad when it came to infants. I was involved in their lives, including school, sports, and hobbies. It's not hard to be a good dad. It just takes a little time and effort. I also find it amusing that mothers, other than my wife, just assume that as mothers, they know more about what is right and wrong for my children than I do. Story 11. I can go into a grocery store or out with my daughter by myself, and everyone thinks it's awesome and cute, so I'm seen as a super dad. My wife, on the other hand, can manage a bike ride, grocery store trip, dance class, play date, and more all in one afternoon without any acknowledgement except for me. It's not fair, but instead of being annoyed, we find the dynamic hilarious. Story 12. Because they are backwards and don't see the point. Praising men for being good fathers is part of normalizing non-traditional lifestyles with reversed gender roles and is part of feminism. This is similar to the men who criticize women being praised for being strong and independent when they are really only meeting basic expectations, like paying their own bills. It shouldn't be necessary to discuss this at all, but that is not how society works. People need validation to feel motivated to act, and we need to be vocal to achieve significant change. So please, for goodness sake, let people praise each other until it becomes normal enough that it is no longer needed. Story 13. Not every dad is just doing the bare minimum. There are dads who are rock stars, going above and beyond for their children, and they absolutely deserve to be praised. Story 14. When they are taking care of the baby while the new mom has her first night out in months. Such a great dad. Watching the baby while she goes to a pub quiz with her friends from university. Story 15. Those are bitter women. Not all women are. The same applies to men who believe women shouldn't be praised or feel proud for carrying a child for 9 months. Those men are bitter. Not all men are. In short, there will always be bitter people in this world. But that doesn't mean what they think is right or should matter at all. Story 16. People are upset at absentee fathers from the past and are projecting those feelings onto responsible fathers today. Many people have memories of fathers who devoted themselves to work and missed out on their children's upbringing, or perhaps they never knew their fathers at all. I don't believe anyone should receive praise for merely fulfilling their basic responsibilities as a parent, but I certainly do not want the standard for fatherhood to decline either. Story 17, because that is the kind of content you are feeding the algorithm. I am not saying it does not happen, but a lot sounds like a comment from an uninformed TikTok section. Story 18. From what I have seen on Reddit, dads are praised because they are often doing the bare minimum while being criticized for not doing it correctly. Completing a basic task in a way that prevents complaints from a partner is considered a significant accomplishment. It is also challenging to achieve these tasks if you have a dominant spouse. Let me help. I got this. I can do that for you. No, I have a system. I'm going to handle this over here. No, you don't know how it's done. What can I do? Just go sit down. I'll let you know if I need you. 3 hours of intense cleaning later. Why don't you ever help? Story 19. Honestly, it's mostly because our fathers weren't parents until we were old enough to not really need much nurturing and care. Not just men's fathers, but all of our fathers, men and women alike. So when we see a father our age being involved in parenting, both men and women tend to think, that's really nice for those children. It's nice to see a father who cares and participates in his children's lives. Some women resent that because many of them have been doing the same thing since day one of their children's lives. Part of the problem is that most of us don't take the time to look beyond our own personal experiences, opinions, and thoughts, so it's easy to feel offended or shortchanged in some way when the reality is that one person receiving praise isn't the same as you being ignored or put down. Story 20. From their perspective, it feels like they are receiving praise for merely being present while they constantly appear as the villain, despite all their efforts. Story 21. Ask the women. I have often heard about how single mothers deserve more praise than men, but usually they are not even mothers saying that. Story 22. There are instances of they're just being a parent or they're just doing what mothers do all the time. Sometimes this is true. You have a working couple, but all the expectations fall on the mother, and when the father helps out, he receives praise. Another aspect is when there is a more traditional role dynamic with a man who works significantly more than the mother, who may be a stay-at-home mom, and he occasionally assists with home caregiver tasks. This can cause jealousy, as women may feel that this role is inaccessible to them. Women are often unwilling to give up the lifestyle that comes with having a working spouse if they could otherwise have one. Story 23. My brother-in-law is praised beyond belief for caring for his own children. I have had a larger role in raising his children than he has. For years, I was the one taking his daughter to and from nursery before my own job. I have paid for birthday parties and Christmas for those kids. I have also organized outings and hospital stays. What men are praised for is usually the bare minimum of parenting. Story 24. Do they? I have been an excellent dad and have not upset anyone. Is this an internet phenomenon rather than real life? Story 25. As a woman, I find it concerning that men are often treated as if they are incapable and praised for babysitting. And it's usually women who make such comments. Story 26. Many Western women exhibit narcissistic traits. While it is not entirely their fault, it is still a reflection of societal influences. It can be challenging to find selfless and humble individuals in this context. Story 27. Because women have been using the internet to collectively share in each other's trauma through both social media and the abundance of true crime content. Any negative experience a woman goes through is parasocially adopted by countless other women worldwide, regardless of their own personal experiences. This includes the notion that, no matter what an individual's relationship is actually like, they are expected to feel trapped in a union with a partner lacking domestic or childcare skills who does not deserve praise for fulfilling their responsibilities. Story 28. I'm a mother and absolutely don't hate it. There is a vast difference between what he gets praised for as a father and what I receive as a mother. He was largely uninvolved and unsupportive during my pregnancy, which forced me to work 4 to 5 shifts every week as a nurse to pay for everything on my own. He's never been present in her daily life, yet during the few times we went to the store or did anything together, he would walk off with her and receive praise from strangers for being such a good and present father every single time. He loved the attention. The reality is that he rarely sees her and is anything but present or involved in her daily life. I have taken care of her every moment since she has been here and haven't been praised for my parenting even once. It's a very different experience for the same child in the same situations. Story 29. Because women don't get praised for the little things they do that would get men praised. Dad taking the kids to the doctor is considered an amazing dad. His wife is so lucky. A mom taking the kids to the doctor is simply viewed as what she's meant to do. Story 30. They get frustrated because they do the same tasks every day and receive little recognition. Dad steps in for 2 hours so mom can go grocery shopping in peace, and suddenly he's seen as the hero. Story 31. I am a woman, and my partner being a dad is one of the most impressive things I have seen. I will always be his cheerleader. Story 32. I'm so glad that I will never have to deal with this. You all have exhausted this question. Story 33. Because no one should be praised for doing the bare minimum, unless they are individuals who successfully manage to pay their own bills. Story 34. Let's be honest here, the bar is pretty low for being a good dad. Just showing up half the time usually meets the standard. I can understand how that would be frustrating from the other side. Story 35. Men receive praise for simple actions that people perform regularly, while women often face criticism for not doing the same. This creates an imbalance in recognition and appreciation. Story 36. Because people receive praise for everything, including things they did not do, and sometimes for nothing at all. In the past, others thought I was the buyer and owner of my wife's condo before she became my wife. Story 37. Because they are being praised for the bare minimum, something mothers get criticized for. Honestly, men should not take it as a compliment because it practically sends a message that all men are inadequate parents and the praise they receive is often condescending. It's as if the father doing the bare minimum is considered one of the good ones. Story 38. The only time I am ever praised is when I carry both children back to the car. A few weeks ago, they were throwing a tantrum after dinner. I put the 3-year-old on my shoulders and carried the 6-year-old. I received a Dad of the Year award and a slow clap from a couple of people sitting outside. Story 39. I find it annoying when I receive praise for being a good husband. Women at my wife's workplace say their husbands would never help in such ways. This leaves me flabbergasted, considering that giving my wife a sponge bath because she cannot wash herself after a near-death experience is too much, or helping her with personal hygiene products, among other things. Story 40. Being a good dad means fulfilling the basic responsibilities of the modern world. You are not tilling fields or hunting buffalo anymore. You can run errands and still have plenty of time to care for your kids. Women have handled these tasks throughout history, so their efforts often go unnoticed. People typically pay attention only when mistakes happen. Story 41. I am a dad and often receive praise from my wife and other mothers. They say I am a great dad, but I feel conflicted about it. Yes, I play with my son a lot and handle the cooking and cleaning. We often host barbecues and kid-friendly activities at our house, which is why we bought it. It is ideal for hosting and playing in the garden. However, I don't see how I am that great. I believe the praise comes from the fact that when these mothers and kids are over, I interact with them frequently. I act silly to ensure they are having fun, and I make sure all the mothers have everything they need and are enjoying themselves. Mothers with little babies get to relax. I think the praise stems from their husbands not being as involved. So when they see a dad actively engaging with the kids while managing the cooking, it surprises them. I just learned today that one of the single mothers thought I was fake and putting on an act when guests are around. That is not true. I genuinely enjoy making sure everyone is having fun and that the kids are safe and happy. Story 42. I don't think many women feel this way. Maybe some do, but I have never encountered this sentiment expressed by any woman in my life. Story 43. Which women are you referring to? I am a retired career firefighter with a 24-hour on and 48-hour off schedule. On my days off, I was a stay-at-home dad. I cleaned the house, did the shopping, took the kids to school, and had dinner ready. My wife used to tell me how jealous her female coworkers, who made up 90% of the employees at her accounting firm, were. She would joke about me not being able to visit her office anymore because her single coworkers might take an interest in me. Any husband or significant other worth their weight will be doing the same thing. Story 44. I am the primary caregiver for both of my children. My partner does the bare minimum or less. I don't receive praise as often as I would like, either from her or others. I can relate to other caregivers. It's exhausting to give so much of yourself for little to no recognition or appreciation. Story 45. Why do some women dislike it when fathers are praised for being good dads? A very small but vocal minority dislikes it when any man receives praise. The world is not represented by a handful of internet trolls. This is similar to saying, why do some men believe women belong in the kitchen, barefoot and pregnant? It simply isn't true. However, these individuals do exist, and they are often louder than those who promote decency by insisting on spreading their negative views widely. Story 46. What I have observed is that people are frustrated by basic parenting being regarded as something extraordinary. Good parents deserve praise, but I believe it is the double standards that irritate many individuals. Story 47. Let's break it down. Older generations tend to praise fathers for performing basic parenting tasks, as many of their fathers did not actively participate in child rearing. Traditionally, they worked outside the home and then came home to relax. This was a different time when couples could afford to have one parent at home while still purchasing a large house and living the dream. This meant many women would come together to raise children collectively, relieving the pressure on individuals. Nowadays, most of us do not have the luxury of having a stay-at-home spouse. Additionally, people are not as social and do not gather as they once did. This increases the pressure on individual couples to bear the responsibilities that were once shared by a group of women. As a result, men often take on more work because they feel the need to step up. Since older generations are not accustomed to this change, they see men going above and beyond what previous generations did. This leads to praise. Women who are also working and do not understand where this praise is coming from may feel jealous that men are being applauded for tasks they are already performing. This results in resentment. Welcome to my talk. Story 48. It almost feels similar to the Black Lives Matter versus All Lives Matter debate, where if you say dad is doing a great job, some people immediately get defensive and say, yeah? Well, what about mom? Story 49. I feel like it has to do with the nuclear family many of our parents experienced. For instance, my girlfriend told our daycare provider she was going away for the long weekend and leaving the kids with me. The provider responded that she could have never done that at our age because her kids were attached to her and her husband wouldn't have been able to handle it. I think that reflects what it was like back in the day, with mothers managing everything for the kids and the house while fathers worked and were less involved. Story 50. It is still true that many fathers earn more than their wives, so they work full-time jobs that take up more of their time, while the wife spends more time with the kids. This is usually a joint decision or sometimes a necessity, as the man's income is needed. In any case, when this is the situation, she views him as an amateur when it comes to parenting. It's similar to her coming to your workplace and successfully completing tasks that your interns can do. If her effort is praised by your boss, she might think, not bad, but it took you 15 minutes to do that? This leads her to laugh at the father being praised for doing something minimal compared to what she accomplishes with the children. In these scenarios, it is best if she respects his work and he respects her parenting efforts. It is too easy for her to think he has it easy, considering he is the provider and expected to work and pay every bill for decades. Conversely, it is easy for him to believe she has it easy because she has days off with the kids, which may sound like vacation time to him. However, in reality, it is far from it if she is actively engaged in parenting and managing household responsibilities such as shopping for groceries and cooking. Story 51. Since mothers are usually seen as the primary caregivers, fathers taking on parenting responsibilities are often viewed as exceptional and receive praise. Mothers may feel frustrated that fathers are recognized for minimal parenting efforts while they manage daily responsibilities without similar acknowledgement. Conversely, they might also feel upset if a father goes above and beyond for their children and receives praise, while they themselves are not recognized for their consistent efforts. Story 52. I believe this question should be directed toward women's perspectives. In my opinion, a father can work while still putting in an incredible amount of effort that often goes unnoticed. Unfortunately, it seems that for many women, their primary role is often seen as just parenting. Story 53. I wouldn't say a lot. Most women are sensible and genuinely happy when seeing any parent being praised. Some women dislike men, some women dislike the dynamic between males and females, and some women feel inferior for various reasons. Story 54. I think what you mean is that fathers receive high praise for simply being parents. This is due to societal norms that dictate most fathers are breadwinners, not parents. Therefore, when a dad takes his kids to the park, attends school events beyond sports, or takes them for medical and dental checkups, it is viewed as going above and beyond the typical role of a father. Fathers do not babysit our kids. They are our kids. We parent and raise them. One of my biggest pet peeves is when men say, "Oh, my wife has me babysitting our kids." What they really mean is that they are being a parent. Story 55. It just occurred to me that I've overheard my wife brag about what a good dad I am to her friends multiple times, but I've never once told my friends what a good mom my wife is. I'm gonna have to do it now. Story 56. This is a common complaint that fathers do the basics and receive praise for it. However, many dads act like another child for mothers to care for, making it unusual when a father takes on his responsibilities. Story 57. I am not a woman, but I dislike when people post about how great fathers are for children. Not everyone will be a father, but all of us were children, and we do not get to choose whether we had a father or not. For those who do have a father, think about how many were abusive. I have no issue with posts that highlight one specific father as a good parent or discuss qualities that make a father a good parent. However, I dislike more generic posts because they imply that all fathers are good. My life would have been better if my father had just abandoned us, and I cannot imagine how much better my life would have been with at least decent parents. When a generalization assumes that no one understands my situation, it hurts. I assume you are referring to instances when a woman gets upset because a father spent a day caring for his children. This is not babysitting. He should be expected to take care of them, do the laundry, change diapers, cook, feed them, help with homework, love them, play with them, and be invested. That is the bare minimum. Anything less than that should prompt us to call Child Protective Services. Story 58. Women desire recognition for giving birth, leading to resentment when men receive praise for being good fathers. Story 59. The standard is so different that it annoys many women. For many people, the expectations for being a good father are so incredibly low that it primarily requires mere attendance, while a mother is judged, mostly by other women, on how her children are dressed, whether they arrive on time, and various other aspects. A few years ago, I was out with a friend who brought his oldest son. The child was in a baby carrier and had forgotten to wear one shoe. Everyone found it amusing, but we discussed how a mother would have been criticized for that. Story 60. It's similar to noticing a woman performing yard work or maintaining the home's exterior. It's becoming more common, but it isn't a traditional gender role. Story 61. Most secure women who genuinely contribute equally to their spouses will not care. The only ones who react negatively are insecure individuals who likely do not contribute equally. When their limited contributions are challenged, they lash out. Story 62. I took care of my kindergarten-age son and picked him up from school every day because my wife was in training, and nobody acknowledged my efforts. The moms would talk to each other, not to me. I feel that much of the praise for good fathers is somewhat empty. Story 63. Because they are often referred to as a good dad for doing the bare minimum of parenting, which is far less than their fair share, mothers' substantial contributions often go unnoticed. This reinforces the idea that fathers do not need to contribute to parenting. If they do, they are rewarded for doing something extra. Story 64. We are not too far removed from a time when fathers were not involved in child rearing. They were primarily the providers and enforcers of discipline. People act as if the 1980s were a century ago. The perception of men as good parents who are actively involved in child rearing is more noticeable now, while a woman's role as a caregiver and good mother has always been taken for granted. Story 65. There is a spectrum. Some individuals are offended by a double standard. Others feel bitterness at the thought of the father being credited for anything at all, with a wide variation in between. There is no single answer to an issue involving numerous examples, each with different circumstances. Story 66. In my experience with this topic, if a mother wouldn't receive praise for it, a father shouldn't either. I think that's a fair perspective. Personally, I don't mind fathers being praised, but when they are only doing the bare minimum and still receiving praise, it seems unfair to me. Story 67. First of all, asking why do women, on a male-focused subreddit, will yield male-biased answers. If you genuinely care about the reasons behind something, and not just an external observer's interpretation of events, then head over to appropriate forums for women. There is an inherent observer bias in this community. As for the answer, I have never seen someone get angry at another person for doing their job. Do you mean when people praise fathers for doing the same things that mothers do? That is not the same situation, and it warrants criticism. Now, this is a man's perspective on a woman's experience. Imagine you are a woman, and you have been doing the necessary things for your child's development, such as enduring physical changes and pain to bring a baby into the world. Nobody really praises you for doing your job because that is expected of you due to traditional gender norms. Now imagine that you see a man also caring for your child, but he receives praise for doing the bare minimum. In fact, it is so minimal that it is referred to as babysitting when a man does it. Wouldn't you feel a sense of unfairness? Because I would. In other words, for a male analogy, consider this. Imagine you are doing all the hard, dangerous physical tasks. Nobody really praises you for serving your country, building infrastructure for citizens, or any similar efforts because of the perception of male expendability. Now, imagine a woman performs the same tasks as you, and she receives praise for doing the same bare minimum. However, a misguided notion of feminism views her as a special case, a more vulnerable individual who is not typically involved in physical activities. She gets praised while you do not. Wouldn't you also feel a sense of unfairness? Because I would. Story 68. I'm pretty sure it's mostly childless individuals and those with father-related issues who don't know what a good dad looks like in the first place. Story 69. Because they realize that they have spent so much time reinforcing the stereotype of a father as being incompetent and inattentive. Story 70. Based on what I've seen, they don't. They dislike it when dads receive praise for doing the bare minimum or even less than that. Being praised for being a good parent is always a positive thing. Story 71. Are they really good? Or are they just doing what they should have been doing? A mother changing her child's diaper is something expected. A father changing his child's diaper is seen as an engaged parent. A mother making breakfast for her children is something expected. A father making breakfast for his children is considered a great parent. Story 72. This is not acceptable. Understand why you hold this belief and stop trusting those who spread these falsehoods. Story 73. When he is an attentive father compared to the stereotypical father who does not get involved much, he receives praise. However, he is simply being a father. No praise is necessary, in my opinion, as I am an involved father. Story 74. In my personal experience, I think that mothers, especially younger first-time parents, need praise a lot of the time, even more than fathers. As a father to a family, I don't personally need praise for changing a diaper, nor do I need anyone telling me what a superhero I am for taking my children to the park. It might come as a surprise to society, but I chose to have kids and actually enjoy spending time with them, not for recognition. There are many young parents out there who need to be told what a good job they are doing. Children aren't easy. They don't come with a manual, and I know many parents, both mothers and fathers, who are often second-guessing everything they do. Story 75. When women step up to be directors of engineering, I will praise them as well. Yes, there are female chief executive officers, and hopefully, there will soon be a female president. They all deserve praise, just like fathers who teach their children discipline, life skills, mathematics, science, and philosophy. Story 76. Those women would be narcissists, and narcissists cannot handle other people getting attention. Story 77. Too many fathers are not involved in their children's lives. So, praise goes to the dads who are committed to being present. It is unfortunate that the standard has fallen so low. Story 78. Many believe that parenting should be a shared responsibility and that praising fathers disproportionately undermines equal partnership. Story 79. Maybe part of it is that there are many issues related to fathers in the world. Issues related to mothers exist too, but that's not the focus. It is likely that some of the pain caused by their own fathers is projected when the topic of paternal praise comes up. Story 80. It is a jealousy issue. Many women feel unappreciated, which makes it difficult for them to see others receive praise. That is why the statement, "It is what you are supposed to do," is so irritating. Story 81. They do the bare minimum and receive praise for things that mothers do but never get acknowledged for. Story 82. It is because, stereotypically, men are supposed to protect and women are supposed to nurture. That is instinctual by nature. In modern times, there aren't many threats, and if there are, women tend to dismiss the roles of the protector. Meanwhile, women do more in terms of parenting and nurturing, so when fathers engage in those activities, it is seen as outstanding. I believe the distribution of responsibilities should be based on who is better at certain tasks. If a mother is better at tucking the kids in, then she should do that. If a father is better at playing catch with the kids, then he should do that. Then women come in and ask why fathers get to do playful activities. The reality is that some women may not feel comfortable playing and may instead embrace a martyr role. Story 83. Some women never grow out of being the center of attention, carrying that burden for the rest of their lives, even at the expense of their partner and their own children. Story 84. Because mothers never receive praise for doing the things fathers do, it is expected for mothers to handle everything, so we do not receive acknowledgement. This can be a little frustrating. However, I rely on my husband to provide me with acknowledgement, so I try not to let it bother me when he receives that from others. Story 85. They are bitter. Why do many men get upset when online personalities are genuinely happy and loved by their partners? We live with karmic beliefs that those who are not righteous, according to our subjective understanding of righteousness, must and always will suffer retribution at some point. When that fails to happen, we are left with either the understanding that our moral compass is not causal and we made a mistake, or more likely, a raging fire of rationalization that seeks to dismiss the person who disproved our karmic worldview. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.